What is up, fish friends, and welcome back. I was trying to give you guys an update a little sooner, but we had a little technical difficulties with some files getting corrupted, I guess. I don't know, I went to upload them, and it was a still frame of my face and no audio for like 3 minutes of the 10 minutes I recorded, so I had to start a couple things over. So welcome back. Don't forget to give me give us, one of these days Kayla will join us, a like, subscribe, and a comment if you would. Any feedback is appreciated. So let's get right into some of the things that have been going on. Some of the good, the bad, and the ugly that I wanted to talk about. We'll flip you guys right around. Trying out my new camera. So that's one of the goods. This is a DJI Pocket Pro 2. And so far I'm in love with this thing. You can see this. I don't know if it'll focus that close. Gotta change what's doing what. But we'll zoom in here a little bit. Let's see if you can enjoy that Ghani right there. Things are starting to look, I mean, the corals look great. The ugly, though, is this hair algae that I'm still struggling to fight with. So that's, I guess, the ugly for sure. The bad is the aptasia that I'm still trying to nip. You can see I got a little field of those guys down here. But, you know, it's frustrating. It makes it challenging. But let's talk about the good. Alright, so let's take a look at the kalk stir on my list of good things that are going on. This thing has been running now for about 2 weeks. And the pH gains have been really great. Is it a little bit of a tough balancing act, balancing it with the calcium reactor that's back here. I've had to dial that back as I bring this up, and it was a little tricky, but once I got it balanced, it's been great. My pH has gone up by 0.2, and because it's a logarithmic scale and not linear, that's actually a really substantial gain. So that's going to be great for coral growth. It pulls its suction here. That's just a check valve to make sure it doesn't lose its siphon. Well, not siphon, but so it doesn't pull back into the container. Pulls out of the RODI container, pumps it into here. You can see there's like a tube that runs all the way down to the bottom. And by pushing RODI in, it displaces some of the saturated kalk, pushing it out and into the tank. And the stir continues to mix it and keep it constantly saturated. It's been great so far. I'm probably approaching maybe end of the week, maybe next week. I'll add some more kalk to it. I'm not sure if I'm going to dump it out and then every couple of times dump it and refill it, or just, I haven't decided yet. This is just a little experiment, but it's going really well. I've had to dial back the calcium reactor. I'm very happy with how this is going. Another positive on my good list is the Trident. The Trident has been running for 3 months now without issue. You can see it's testing now. The drawer's a little ajar because I just put in the ABC Reagents. I'll call them the generic reagents. I think they cost about half the price of the actual Trident reagents, or from Neptune rather. And it's been good. I had a calibration issue at first where it was reading way too high, but that might have been user error on my end. When I calibrated it, I had started the process, or when I primed it rather, before calibrating it, I started the process and then went to shut the drawer and realized the ABC reagent bottles are taller. So as you see here, I had to put the Neptune bottles back and then pour the ABC reagent into the Neptune bottles. I didn't realize that was how that worked. So that was my own mistake. I suspect I got air in the line for the A reagent, and that caused the calibration to be off. So I recalibrated to the tank, and it's been rock solid ever since. So I have it taking suction out of the sump, and then I have an empty carbon container here as my waste. So far so good, and the tank is looking good. Well, other than the algae as I talked about before, but the corals are looking great. I've also decided to change out my T5 bulbs after getting a recommendation to do so in order to try to tackle my algae problem. There was something about the spectrum shift that occurs as they age, and that can fuel algae growth. I haven't taken a par meter to it or a spectrometer and actually measured this, but I have heard of that before, and you're supposed to replace them every 6 months, and these are going on almost a year now, so I figured it was about time to change them anyway. And this time, instead of using 3 blue plus and 1 actinic, I went with 4 coral plus, and I think that spectrum looks much better. I've also begun to do more water changes, which will lead us into the next part of the video, going over my mixing station and RODI. I'm hoping the water changes will just get whatever is causing problems in there out, and maybe we can get some normalcy soon. Alright, here we are in my dungeon at the mixing station. It does get damp down here sometimes. It is a root cellar basically in a 100-plus-year-old basement, so I built it up on these blocks to keep everything from contamination, and I can fit 5-gallon buckets under there, so I don't need any power. I don't need to run pumps in order to fill buckets. So when I fill my top off bucket, I come over here and I've got this valve here with a nipple. If I need to fill saltwater buckets, which I really don't anymore, I can do the same thing on this side. I just have to put the elbow back on. I used it for another project because I wasn't using it. So I've got my 2 mixing bins here. On the left is the RODI, right saltwater, and then I've got the mixing pump that will pull from the RODI bucket to fill the saltwater bucket, as well as recirculate depending on my valve arrangement. For the RODI, I have modified an aquatic life twist-in system. So I've got dual RO membranes as the water saver, dual DI, and then unfortunately I was having silica issues and had to add a silica buster cartridge. This was recently. I don't know if that's contributing to any of my algae problems. I haven't been using it long enough to really know, but we'll see if anything changes. Again, this has been such a multifaceted approach on the algae issue that I'm not even sure, I guess, if it does go away, which thing I did actually solve the problem. But I guess that's kind of the consequence of doing a lot at once. I'm just kind of, it's frustrating, you know, losing my patience. But anyway, back on topic. That'll make my water, I get about, it's almost 400 TDS into the system. I'll get about 20 into the DI, 0 into the mixing, into the RODI storage bin. Pump that over into here. I'll add my salt while the water's circulating. I have a heater in there, and the mixing pump is now on an EB8 that I threw in over here. I ran a Cat 6 cord, I'll try to show you guys here, with this USB termination block in order to get communications to the apex all the way down here. So I actually now have a button, I don't know if that focused right, a button upstairs that I can press to turn my RODI on, and it'll start pumping on its own for 4 hours. That should fill a bin about halfway, so I just press a button, set it, and forget it. I've also switched salts. I was using Tropic Marin, but now we've switched to Red Sea Blue Bucket. I haven't seen any notable differences, but the Tropic Marin was getting expensive, and trying to get the German stuff in stock was a little challenging. So I've been mixing this stuff up to 35 parts per trillion, and it's more in line with what I'm doing. It's got the DKH of 8 there when the Tropic Marin was mixing up around 7, so I'd have to buffer it up. This is working much better for me. I bought it in the bulk commercial pack and then put it into this bucket as I consumed it because this is resealable. I also created this little T here, which has been working really nice for me. I can close the recirc valve in here, open this valve, and pump the water through this tube upstairs. There was already a hole in the floor from my radiators, so I was able to hide it behind a radiator, and I uncoil this tube and I've got a valve on the other end into either the nano tank or the big Reef, and I can pump the water right up here. This has made water changes so much better. I hate carrying buckets up the stairs, especially because this house is 120 years old. My basement stairs creak, are a little hairy, I'd say. It's on my to-do list of fixing, but I'd rather not carry buckets. So this has been working great, and it actually gets me to do water changes, because if you make it easier, you're going to do it. All right, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Every like, every subscription, and of course every comment helps, and please leave some feedback in the comments below. Everything's been going much better. Algae's still frustrating, and I'm sure some of you can really feel that as well, but at least the corals are looking good. I'll try to get a little bit better of a picture of this gonian for you guys, but please don't forget, like, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time, fish friends.